Hello everyone. Today I am going to start a new tutorial series for Python Flask. What is Python Flask? Python is a language as we know, and Flask is a web application framework which uses Python language. Web application framework which helps us to serve web application, sometimes API, sometimes a full-fledged application with UI. And in this case we are gonna explore from like 0 to 1 all the like phases of Flask in this tutorial. So this is going to be like a marathon series, so you just need to like keep coming to this particular playlist, and then there will be something new every time I upload a video in this series. Let's discuss like why do we need a web framework. Actually, web framework helps us in several things. Like for example, it helps us to structure the application code in a way like it uses some common practices, and it helps us managing some additional plugins and DB connectors and all those things, because those are quite already tested with some other application. Somebody has already used that, so if there is any feedback they have improved that. So that way the framework actually setting some platform that is already tested, so that is another benefit. One can be like the web framework actually give additional flexibility to not writing the boilerplate code, because there are several small decisions you had to make which are very common, which need not to concentrate on, because those are like very common to like somebody already solved it, so let's take that part, and without worrying like what will be the problem with the code and all those things. It helps us to not writing too many like code from the scratch, because some of the things are very common and which are already addressed earlier, like in open source world, and in a like somebody else already had taken care of those common problems in their application. So why don't we take advantage of that experience, and then having them in the code will reduce the writing time for the boilerplate code, so that is another help. And also there are like people has already used that, so there if there was any issue they have already fixed it. For example, the security loopholes and all those things, if you write the code from scratch, then there could be like tiny mistakes which can lead to some security holes. That chances of that will be reduced if you use the already tested one. Like some like plenty of people already use this framework, so they have already checked the code, and then some of them at least, and if there is any issue they have already addressed. So security loopholes also can be reduced if you use the framework. So you can get start with the like main part of your application, which is your business logic, which is your ISP of this code. So you just concentrate on that, and then the feature and then the uniqueness of your application. Don't need to bother about the base practices and all the common feature of a web application which need not to be changed in your case. So in that way, like web framework actually helps us to start the web application easily. Now I am going to install Python on this machine. Make sure you have selected the add to the path variable. That will be helpful. Otherwise, you need to do extra work there. After installing the Python setup in my machine, I will concentrate on setting up the environment for Flask. So if you see the Flask website, it is saying the installation. If we install the dependency for the Flask, it will automatically manage the installation for this many items. And it also suggests that we create the virtual environment. Actually, any project we do in Python, we should create the virtual environment. There will be like tons of benefits for that. Let's understand what is the virtual environment in Python. So Python venv is a kind of isolated environment support for each of your project. Whenever you create a project, you can assign a virtual environment to that project, and it will automatically handle the version of the libraries and all the dependencies, and also the version of the Python itself, and other dependent items isolatedly, right? So let me explain briefly. uh, for example, you have two projects of Python in your machine. One project is using one version of one particular library, and another project is using another version of that library. So you don't want to keep changing your main environment for each of the project, right? So you want to create a virtual environment and assign each of the virtual environment to each of the project. And now, interestingly and surprisingly, you don't bother about like what version of other project using in other virtual environment. Whatever you have assigned with this project, the virtual environment, there you can handle all the like even the Python interpreter version, Python library, and scripts, all the version, all the like dependency, it will be bundled with this particular environment, which will be isolated from other Python virtual environment. So this way, like, you can create several different kind of environment of Python in your single machine, and giving it to each of the project. So yeah, that was Python venv. So I'll create a Python venv for this project as well, and then I in that Python virtual environment, I will create the I will install the Flask, and then set up the project itself. Yeah. Here I am going to create a folder for this entire project, and inside that folder I'm going to create a virtual environment and the project itself. Now I'll open the folder in command prompt, and then I'll create the virtual environment. For virtual environment, the command is py -m venv, and then the folder where the virtual environment will reside. And also after that, I am going to create a project. So the folder name is Python Flask boot. As always, I'm going to upload this project in my GitHub account. You can check it out anytime there. So here I have opened the newly created project, but it has no virtual environment associated with it, because I have opened it in the PyCharm. I need to add the virtual environment which I have created before creating this project. I need to add it here in this project. So how to do that? There are several ways, but yeah, the best way, I think, you need to just Control Alt S, and then it will open the settings. You can also open the setting from here, File, Settings, and then go to the Python interpreter. Here you click on this, and then it will show all the virtual environment and also environment available. So just click on the show all, so it will show all the like environments available in your machine. Now you can click plus, and because we have already created one virtual environment, so I'll select the existing environment. Now I'll expand this. It is showing nothing, so I'll select the folder. Okay, if you remember, we have named it Flask 021, the main folder, and inside that the project folder is Python Flask boot, and virtual environment is this one, venv for 021. So I will select the python.exe here. Okay, I'll expand everything from the script, and then select the python.exe and click OK. So it will click the interpreter, which is a virtual environment interpreter, of course, and I'll click OK, and this name will appear here. I'll click OK, and yeah, you can see the virtual environment for 021 is selected. So I'll apply and click OK. Now you can see scanning files to index. So the environment is adding up with this application. Okay, so now I am going to create a hello world API, get API, for this newly created project. here I have imported the Flask and use that and passing the name here. The name is important because it will tell the app where will be the templates and static files and other elements. It's just for that. And also I'm using the route decorator here. Route decorator will tell like what will be the API endpoint for this assigned methods, and this method actually will be responsible and will be binded to this API endpoint, and it will return the process data. uh, like we can process the request and then respond with this return of this particular method which is assigned to this route decorator with this particular endpoint, right? So the endpoint here is like only slash, so that means like default a default location of the URL will respond hello world. So let's run this application. To run this application, let me open the terminal and api.py to Flask app. That to do that, I just need to set Flask app equals to api.py. You can name anything, this file except the flask.py, because that will conflict with the original Flask package. But except that, you can like name it anything. Let me run this application. To run it, I just need to write Flask run. One more thing, we don't need this main.py, this is auto generated, so I just need to make it not confusing, I'm deleting it. Okay, so this is running and it is running on localhost 5000 port. So let me visit there. Sorry, 5000, right? So it is returning hello world. Let me change it to something else. Hello laboratory. But after changing, I need to rerun the application. Yeah, now it will be hello laboratory. So yeah, so that was a Flask get API. We successfully done it. So now thing is that it's very basic one. So later on in this particular series, we're gonna do so many important things on like Flask application, how to structure the application for different requirements, and what are the best practices, how to write good code, and all those things we will cover. Make sure you subscribe this channel, make sure you follow the particular playlist for this particular series. I'll put down the playlist URL in the description of this video. Make sure you keep visiting there, and also let me know like what are the different things you want to really know about or learn about this Python, Flask, or any other languages, anything. Like I'm going to keep posting new videos. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you. Yeah.